there we were, man, on the Bible aisle, and we were so confused. We didn't know what we was gonna do. Hey, it's Pastor Kevin. I'm just gonna ask you a question. Have you been on the Bible aisle at your local bookstore lately? There is so many different types of Bibles, different study Bibles, different translations. You know, not too long ago, my wife was looking for a new study Bible, and we went to one of the chain bookstores, and she was walking up and down the aisles looking for the what Bible suited her. And of course, there was study Bibles, different preachers' study Bibles, the MacArthur study Bible, the David Jeremiah study Bible, all kinds of different preachers and teachers study Bibles. Not only that, there was study Bibles for the hunter, those in law enforcement. There was all kinds of study Bibles. And on top of that, there was, I don't know how many different translations. And my wife said something and it stuck with me, and I wanted to make this video to kind of clarify. She said, I'm a pastor's wife and have been a Christian for a long time. And she was admittedly overwhelmed by all the choices of the different study Bible, different translations, especially in the translations. So she was in a dilemma. She was there on the Bible aisle and, trying to decide which one she was going to choose. And you know what? You may have been there too. You may have been standing on the Bible aisle in your own personal dilemma. Which Bible, which translation should I choose? This is today's topic on At the Table with Pastor Kevin. Okay, so what's the deal with all the different translations that you see at the bookstore? I want to let you in on something, just a few facts right off the bat. The biblical authors didn't speak or write in English. I know that's a spoiler, right? But the original biblical languages was Hebrew and Greek. Hebrew being the Old Testament, Greek being the New. And our English Bibles are translations from the original language. Now, have you ever been maybe in a personal Bible study or even in church, and you're following along in your Bible as the person reads a passage from their Bible, and it seems to say two completely different things? I've been there. So what's the difference? Now, I'm going to throw some fancy words at you. There's actually two different types of translation philosophies. The Bible translators use either formal equivalents or dynamic equivalents. Now, okay, let's break that down into everyday terms. The formal equivalents can be viewed as a word-for-word translation. Okay, they look at the original language in that word and they try to get as close as they possibly can, word for word, into the English language. And examples of that would be the interlinear Bibles, also the New American Standard Bible, the English Standard Version, and of course the King James Version. There's tons of those that are on that word for word philosophy. Now, on the other hand, there's the dynamic equivalence or the thought for thought translation philosophy. Those are actually trying to get the gist. They're trying to move what the author is saying as more, instead of just a word for it, it's the thought of the author. What is the author trying to convey? Now, if you picture these philosophies on a scale with word for word on one side and thought for thought, these translations vary all up and down that scale. Now, an example of the thought for thought philosophy would be like the New Living Translation, the Contemporary English Version, and also the Message, which is really a paraphrase. But if you were looking for a version that's kind of in the middle somewhere, the NIV, the New International Version, is kind of in the middle there. So there's a range of translations, and that's probably the reason why your Bible sounds different than others, that the translators use a different philosophy, either a word for word or a thought for thought. Which is better? Which translation's better? Now, if you Googled that question, you're going to come up and you're probably going to be more confused. You may have Googled that and come across this video. But in my opinion, that question needs to be defined. Of course, there are bad translations, okay? There's some that get away from the historic Christian faith and all kinds of, we're not even getting into that in this video. But in my opinion, that question of which one is better needs to be defined. What are you doing? What are you looking for? You know, word for word translations are more, in my opinion, suitable for in-depth study. Okay, if you're going to study, do word study, you need a word for word translation. Now, on the other hand, if you're just kind of reading along devotionally, or either maybe in your word for word studies, the woodenness of the translation, the phraseology is kind of tough to wrap your head around, and you don't really understand what they're trying to say. That's when you could look to a thought for thought to get the big idea, you know, for general reading or grasp the overall gist of the passage or what the author is trying to say. Read a couple different translations is my suggestion. A couple in each camp. So, you know, to return to the dilemma on the Bible aisle with my wife, as an example, my wife was looking for a study Bible. So she chose a Bible that went along the lines of the word for word. In my opinion, as a pastor, I believe the more accurate translation or the word for word, thought for thought gets a little out there. But I want to say, that, again, just according to what you're doing would be the way I'd answer that question. If you're just reading, trying to understand the overall passage, get the thought for thought. But if you're really trying to get in and study in depth, I would really suggest a word for word. I hope that is it clarified some things. The reason why there's so many different Bible translations out there. Again, just a personal note, I preach from the NASB, but I also read a lot from the ESV. The NASB is a more word-for-word translation, but the only thing about the NASB is it's kind of a wooden translation, where the ESV is still a word-for-word, but it flows a little bit better. So that's my 2 cents on the whole Bible dilemma. Hopefully this has helped you. And if you have any questions, please comment below. I would love to hear from you. And also, hey, if you've enjoyed this video, share it. Click subscribe down at the bottom. And I look forward to meeting you again at the table.